Do you want to intro us?
Yeah, I'll intro us. Welcome to I Scream, You Scream, your weekly scoop of the most chilling histories, mysteries, and true crime. I'm Gina.
I'm Kathryn.
And since this is episode 1, here's how it's going to work. So every month we'll come at you with a new flavor. This time it's vampires. And every week this month we'll have a different episode all about our favorite blood-sucking friends or enemies, depending on which episode it is. And to go along with it, we have some delicious strawberry ice cream. You want to have a bite? Let's try it.
It's all melty.
Mine too. Mine tastes like what somebody imagines strawberry should taste like.
You want to know something so funny?
Yeah.
It's probably not that funny. It's funny to me. It tastes the way, like, ice cream tasted in the 90s. You know how nowadays everything's, like, better for you than it used to be? Well, due to the fact that I bought the cheapest possible bucket of strawberry ice cream, it tastes like the good old days.
The ice cream of the Clinton administration, if you will.
I mean, honestly, yes. I mean, I'm not mad. It's weird that it's 8 a.m. and I'm eating a dish of ice cream.
Yeah, I feel
But,
that.
like, that's fine. Did you ever do that? That's what we used to do. Speaking, I mean, again, reminiscent of the Clinton administration. This is what we did on our birthdays. Every year for our birthday, we got ice cream for breakfast. Oh my God, speaking of which, wait. So the day this comes out is my niece's birthday. Happy birthday.
Really? Is it Coco?
Yeah, she'll be 5.
Oh my gosh, happy birthday, Coco.
She is 5 when this is... Ooh, weird. Future Coco is going to be 5. But present...
Is Coco something that, like, only friends can call her?
No.
Is it 5-year-olds don't have
that's
that?
Actually,
okay.
That's like... Yeah, no, it's both.
Cute. Well, happy birthday, Coco.
Yeah, I think her mom named her with the intention of calling her that.
Oh, cute. Nice.
Coco. Yeah. Like, she wanted a name where that could be the nickname.
Love that.
I think. Sorry if that's not correct, Karen, if you're listening. I think she said that to me one time. Yeah, happy birthday. And happy almost birthday to me. My birthday's 2 days after.
Yes, happy very almost birthday to you. Do you have any plans for your birthday this year?
We're, like, just now talking about it. We do not currently have plans. But Phil, I totally forgot about this. Phil just mentioned, like, what day we should do it. Because that's the thing, like, Colette's birthday party will always be on my birthday weekend now, which I'm more than happy about. I love a kid's birthday, specifically hers. But, like, he knows how seriously I take my birthday, so I think he gets, like, okay, we gotta, like, lock in a day so that, you know, whatever. I don't get overshadowed by a 5-year-old.
Oh, I love that he does that, though. That's sweet.
Yeah, like, I don't care. I love it, but... he gets like, okay, when are we doing this?
Yeah. Gotta map this out in advance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. I heard that you have a story for us, Kathryn.
This means I have to talk now. I'm not done with my ice cream. This is gonna be hard. Because you know how ice cream, like, I feel like I have to, like, chug my water.
Ice cream makes me so thirsty, and it makes me cough.
Yeah, we did not think this through.
Yeah, Kathryn's lactose intolerant, for anyone who doesn't know us.
I have my... trusty Lactaid, hashtag not sponsored, but wannabe. So Lactaid, if you're watching or listening, please like and subscribe. All right, cool. So like Gina said, we're talking about vampires this month. And today, episode 1, we're talking about Elizabeth Báthory, also known as the Blood Countess. I will say, first and foremost, there are names in here that I forgot to Google the pronunciation. I Googled hers, and I'm still like, that's probably not how you actually say it, but I'm doing my best. Okay, so a little bit of background. Elizabeth Báthory is known as one of the earliest recorded female serial killers. And I'm just going to jump right into spoiler alert, she was accused of brutally torturing and killing more than 600 young women.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah. And I'm going to be laughing throughout this because I'm very uncomfortable just being on camera and being recorded to begin with, but also talking about this is making me, like, very uncomfortable. Yeah, I don't think this is funny. I'm just going to be smiling throughout this entire thing because that's just who I am. So she was born in 1560 in the Kingdom of Hungary, and she was from a very old family. They were a very old Protestant noble family, and their lineage dated back to the early 1000s. So they were around for centuries. Just to give kind of an idea of what kind of status they had throughout the region, her uncle Stefan Bathory had many titles. He was King of Poland, Grand Duke of Lithuania, and also the Prince of Transylvania. They were not kind people. They were not like known to be a very, like, she wasn't like princess of the people, okay? They were known to be very violent, power hungry, and just overall like a snooty noble family that didn't really care at all about the lower class. I think that was pretty common back then. I don't think that that was anything like super unique to them, but they were just known for being very violent, and no one really liked them, apparently. So, early life, being from a mean family doesn't totally explain torturing and killing over 500,000 people. So, historians have kind of looked into, you know, the obvious, like what could have happened, what led her to whatever actions led to these accusations later on. And one of the things that they found was when she was a little girl, I don't know the exact age range, but when she was younger, she suffered from seizures. And it's unclear exactly why. They don't know if she had, you know, an actual like disorder, like if she had epilepsy or if there was some type of brain injury. It was never clear why she had seizures. Either way, there was no name for seizures back then. People just called it falling sickness. And basically, I mean, it's kind of a tale as old as time. Any lack of understanding around an illness kind of led to a little bit of fear and misunderstanding. There was obviously likely some otherness involved. Basically, lack of perfection equaled like evil or not good. So that probably led to some lack of their popularity, and they likely like kept it as under wraps. They being the family kept it as under wraps as possible, because like no noble family wants a child who is not perfect, essentially. So this is where we get into like, this again is not specific to her, but it kind of fits the overall vibe of this story. Back in the day, there were two very common treatments for falling sickness. One was the patient would take the blood of someone healthy, and on a regular basis, either like daily or weekly, I don't know, they would rub it on their lips as kind of like a, think of like taking an allergy pill every day or a multivitamin.
Oh,
the idea was like, yeah, the idea was like getting your body acclimated to this healthy blood would like make your blood healthy. I don't know. But
That's
yeah, that was
wild.
like, yeah, that was like the ongoing treatment, if you will. The second, which was more of like a real time in the moment, not cure, but like almost a medication for the seizures, was kind of same deal. But when someone was having a seizure, whoever was their caretaker, whoever was watching over them or whatever, they would mix, same deal, they would mix the healthy blood with a piece of skull, and they would feed it to the person who was like coming out of their spell, aka seizure.
I didn't realize that this shit was like medical.
Mm-hmm.
Like people
Yeah,
recommended it. That's crazy.
that's what I read. And I do want to be clear. This is episode 1. I did my best research. I found that in multiple places. We'll get into this a little later, but there's going to be a lot of people who are like, oh no, that's not really what happened or whatever. But this is part of the story, okay? You know, like this is something that it is said to have happened. But yeah, it was unclear. I don't know. There's something with the skull. I don't know if they like mixed the blood in the skull and like fed it from the skull, or if they like crushed up human skull and like mixed it with the blood. That was unclear. It just said mix the blood with the skull. So
Well,
I don't
either
know for
way,
sure.
metal
Yeah.
and terrifying.
Dude, it's so metal. Like everything about this story is a little bit metal, but in a way that I do not condone. Well, I condone some of it. I will talk about that later.
Role model, yeah.
Yeah. No. Okay. So when Elizabeth was 15, she married a man named Count Nadezhdy, one of the names that I did not Google, but he was a member of another very powerful Hungarian family, and that marriage is what made her a countess. That's what gave her, obviously, duh, he's a count, so she is countess. The marriage was obviously a political arrangement, as most were. They first got engaged when she was 13. And I feel like I've already said this a couple times in this episode, but this is where it gets juicy. We're leveling up the juice here. So there's a rumor.
Not the drinking of blood out of a skull or...
Yeah, no, that was just average juice. Like,
it's just foreplay.
Everyone did the blood thing. This is going to be actually specific to her. So there is a rumor, like part of her lore is that at the time that her marriage to Count Nadezhdy was being arranged, like, I don't know if they were already engaged or if it was just like part of the discussion, she was in love with a young peasant boy. As it goes, yes.
Aww.
And they ended up having a baby out of wedlock. And this obviously would not do. It was the 1500s, and she was a noblewoman. He was a peasant boy. Not the vibe, right? So her parents paid a family friend. She had the baby. They paid a family friend to take the baby away. It was never seen or heard from again.
Oh my God.
It is not clear what happened to it. They don't know if this friend was asked to raise the baby as their own or if trigger warning. Should we give a trigger warning? This is a like murder podcast, so trigger warning forever. Okay. But specifically in this moment, unclear if they paid to have the baby killed or what happened. It was just they got rid of it.
And I could see that be like if she was already struggling with some kind of something, that could just push you right over the edge, couldn't it?
Yeah. And like she likely, I mean, if she's like in love with this boy and she's marrying someone else, that's already traumatic enough. And then this whole baby thing on top of it, it just kind of keeps piling on. Speaking of piling things on, Nadezhdy apparently found out about the baby and, you know, he was, again, either already engaged to her or they were already, I keep wanting to say scheduled to be together. That's not what I'm trying to say. The arrangement was already kicking. She was already his, you know, their words, not mine, but I'm paraphrasing.
Can't wait to grow up and be someone's legal property.
At 13.
At 13.
Yeah.
God.
Or 15. I don't know when.
Too young, in any case.
Too young. So when he found out, another trigger warning. I don't know what for, just trigger warning. He had the boy castrated and sent his dogs after him, and he was like murdered by the hunting dogs.
Do you know if like
not laughing? I'm sorry.
Do you know if this boy was he like roughly the same age as her?
So that's the story. Yeah, like they were.
Wow.
Seems like they were like young and in love, but she was engaged to this older man. Can you imagine? It's 2024 and you have an affair and the guy finds out and like, or,
so he
whatever.
Castrates the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Sixes dogs on him. Dude, I feel like this story would be tragic enough if it just ended here.
Right. Okay. That's
heartbreaking.
Like, this is kind of the part where I'm like, yeah, I would too. Yeah, I don't like maybe no, I wouldn't. Depending who's listening, no, I wouldn't. But like, I'm like, yeah, if this is true, kind of like, yeah, I don't condone it, but I'm not also questioning
Kathryn's not bothered at all.
So this is one of the first things that we don't know if it's true or not. But again, if it is true, she was probably very damaged and emotionally traumatized by this. So, like, this is a thing people point to as a reason why she could have gone the direction she went.
Yeah. Because she was still, like, mentally developing. Like, I think back to when I was 13 and I was an idiot. It's like I was drunk all the time.
That was why I kind of, like, scoffed just now, because I'm like, oh my God, if this happened when I was 13, I would murder 600 people then, like that day.
Right?
In one day, all 600. Like,
I don't doubt it. You're very strong.
Oh yeah, no, I am. I am strong. We were just talking about this the other day. I was talking about it with Chloe.
How strong
She's
you
my
are?
friend for people
Or
who don't
murdering
know
600
who that
people?
is. How strong I am. But now I'm talking to you about how, therefore, I can murder 600 people. But I won't.
Today.
Just, no, not ever.
Oh, okay. Not ever.
So anyway, beyond this baby rumor, they seemed to have a very normal relationship. She and Nadezhdy. It just was your average business agreement between two noble families in the 1500s. Like there wasn't a lot of reports of any like violence or whatever, nothing like that. It was, I mean, I'm sure there was, just because I'm sure there was in every relationship back then, but it wasn't abnormal. I'll put it that way. They lived in a place called Castle Kastis. That one I did Google, but I don't speak Hungarian, so sorry. It was a wedding gift from the Nadezhdy family, and they had 4 confirmed children, but many people believed that they actually had 6. But for some reason, there was no birth record for 2 of the children. It is speculated that maybe they could have been cousins or just some like rando that they took in. But the rumor I want to start is that one of them maybe was the baby.
And they
Maybe.
like secretly kept them?
Like maybe she found the baby and was like, hey, found this little rando, let's raise it. Yeah. And he was like, okay, yeah. I found no evidence of that whatsoever, but maybe, so let's just pretend. Yeah.
I could totally see that though. Like, especially, like, what if the husband, maybe her husband wanted people to be afraid of him, so he spread the rumor that he castrated this boy and, you know, all that stuff, but then secretly, you know, they brought the baby in and it was all right.
Wait, I actually, that's better than what I said. I like that better because that makes me like him more.
Because how could they have? I know that, you know, we're working off of centuries worth of a gap here, but how could they have an average relationship after that? There's no way.
I think because they had to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was
like,
expected.
I don't think she was, I mean, she wasn't allowed to have a problem with their relationship.
You're right.
Do you know what I mean? So keep that in mind. Yeah, like when I say average relationship, I definitely don't mean healthy. And I definitely don't mean good. You know, like okay. This is an average 1500s
word
relationship. So
bad.
Still not great. Yeah. So yes, at the time that they were married, he became the chief commander of the Hungarian military. So he was gone fighting in the Ottoman Habsburg Wars for most of the time they were together. And that actually, like to your point, like that actually was part of the reason they didn't have a bad relationship, because he was gone for, you know, the majority of the marriage, essentially. Her role kind of in this relationship / her position was to manage their business affairs, ensure that citizens had medical care throughout the wars, and then just managing families' estates. So again, that's very normal for any noblewoman. But in addition to that, she, over the years, would also recruit young women, you know, society women, like young aristocratic women and teenage girls, to work in the castle for her. And in exchange, she would give them lessons, like, not like as we think of education, but she would give them education on how to be like a lady and a wife and how to run a home. Basically like etiquette lessons, essentially. I almost said it again. This is where it gets juicy. As it goes with women who have stories like this, in the year 1604, at the age of 48, Count Nadezhdy died from mysterious circumstances. His symptoms started 3 years before his actual death, and it was a very slow decline until, I think, in like sometime in 1603, so a year before he died, he became permanently disabled and then was just all downhill from there. And it was never, I'm sure he was given a cause of death, but there's always been kind of a question about, like, they never knew for sure what exactly it was. And it could have been anything. She could have had nothing to do with it. Based on everything that came later, We don't know. Maybe she did. Like, questions started to kind of arise when other things came to light, essentially. So, back in the day, women could not legally, like, be head of the household, own land, all of that kind of stuff. So, Nadezhdy basically named fellow nobleman and kind of right-hand guy Count. Okay, this is one that I did not Google, but I purposely didn't because I think my way is super cute and I hope that it's correct, so I'm just going to pretend it is.
Okay.
The way I'm reading it is Count Georgy Thurzo.
Georgy Thurzo?
Yeah, do you know this person? Do you know his actual name? Okay.
No.
If you're listening and you know it and you're like, wow, that's way wrong, this is one time I'm going to say, I just don't care. Usually I'm going to care about getting it right, but this one, in my head, he needs to keep this name because I think that's so funny for like
Georgie
a big
Porgy.
evil count. Like, Georgie Porgy Thurzo Wurzo. Yeah, I love it. So I'm going to call him Count Thurzo though. Anyway, so this Thurzo guy is named whatever that title is, caretaker, but more so like head of household. I'm thinking of like a power of attorney or executor or some of a will. Like he was like that guy. So he basically, the logistics of this were fuzzy to me when I looked into the actual Hungarian laws in 1500s were very hard for me to find. I'm sure someone out there can find them easier than little old me, but Google was just not on my side with this one. But the way I am understanding it is it was still like she still held her position. She still had a say in things happening and what was done and, you know, decision making and blah, blah, blah. But he just also did. That's my understanding was
like
that
he was like final say. Like everything has to go
yes,
through him for
but
sign
she
off.
could be, yeah, but she could be like a veto or whatever though. So like
Okay.
she still had it. She had an amount of power. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going to say
Yes.
that's good, but, you know, it was her, so maybe not so good.
Yeah. Yes. This is another thing that I tried real hard to get exact timelines on, and just every single thing I read was like, they were a few years off. But an amount of time after her husband died, Count Thurzo claims to have walked in on Elizabeth torturing one of the women that she had working for her. This initiated an extensive investigation against her. And he claims that basically, you know, when her husband's illness set in, or a few years, again, timeline's weird, like somewhere around his death, she basically went insane. And that's when she started brutally torturing all of these women. So I am going to list some of the things that she was accused of doing. Again, trigger warning. Mom, you're listening, you will definitely want to fast forward a minute or two here. If you, like my mother, also think Hocus Pocus is scary and gross, you should also fast forward at this part. If you're scared of Billy from Hocus Pocus, you should definitely skip past this because this will be too much for you.
Oh, that's so cute.
But for the rest of you, just, you know, this is just what she was accused of. So, 1, she would cover her victims from head to toe in honey and leave them outside for insects to like gnaw on.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's like worst nightmare.
That's like the very first one. I tried to put these in order of brutality, and that's the first one. Yeah.
Dude, oh my God.
I know. Yeah, I know. She would strip them naked in the winter and force them to take ice baths for extended periods of time until the point of hypothermia. She would have them forage for stinging nettle and then use the nettle that they foraged to whip them with it.
Okay, can we pause on this for a sec? Have you ever been stung by a stinging nettle?
No, but I've heard about it. Yeah,
that
I personally have not.
Hurts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
When were you?
So nettles
camping?
Are no, it's like I don't know if they exist in America, to be honest. It sounds like a very dumb thing to say, but I never encountered them when I lived in the States.
I don't know if they do. Yeah.
And just for, if someone's listening who doesn't know this, I live in the UK. I live in England, and we definitely...
Yeah. You said that. We'll introduce ourselves next time.
Yeah. Stick around and you might figure out.
Yeah, episode 2, you'll find out who the fuck are these chicks. I don't know.
But we definitely have nettles over here. And when I lived here as a kid, you know, you frolic around in the woods and you play with your friends and stuff. And if you touch a nettle plant with your bare skin, it'll sting you. And it hurts like a motherfucker. It is painful. And I don't know.
Because it's like instant, right? It's not like a poison ivy where you get
it's like as soon as you touch it, you know it. Yeah, it hurts. And I don't know why. I just assumed all of her torture would have something to do with blood.
Yeah, because she also would need to be touching it if she's whipping them with it, unless she had, I mean, maybe she had like gloves and stuff. I don't know. I don't know the logistics of stinging nettle, so I don't know if it could go through like clothing or not.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Hit me with another one.
We should. I was going too fast. Okay. So if you fast forwarded, go a couple more minutes. So this next one is the one that got me like, everything was slow. She seemed to do everything very slowly. Because it very specifically stated that she would slowly drive sewing needles underneath their fingernails. Yes.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fuck.
And then, all right, I feel like I need to just rapid fire the rest of these because I'm like not gonna get through.
Rip off the Band-Aid. Just do it.
I think Hocus Pocus is scary. I'm like having a hard time getting through this. Okay. She would bathe them in boiling hot baths of water. 2 of her servants claimed that she would turn her victims' bodies into sausages and would serve them to guests. There were reports of her biting them, like she would like strip them naked and like bite parts of their body, which that is part of what, you know, led to the vampire lore later on. And then the big kahuna, the one that you're thinking of, she would drain their victims of blood. Again, slowly. She wouldn't like bleed them dry. She would like slowly, like in a torturous way, like keep them alive, but drain them of blood until they were very like weak and essentially dying, but not dead. And she would fill her bathtub with their blood and she would bathe in it. It is said that she believed that the blood of a virgin would help her maintain eternal youth.
I remember, so I should say, I technically know this story, but in the way that I haven't heard it told since I was a kid. Because I think it was the History Channel. I have a really clear memory of watching a documentary about this chick with my sister. And the part I remember is her bathing in like the blood of virgins. And
that's
this
the
is
big one. That's the one.
Yeah. And it's kind of morbid, but I do remember being like 8 years old and being like, I wonder if that works. Like, I'm not going to try it.
I don't think that's morbid. I think that let's do a little segue real quick because this is a soapbox that I enjoy being on. Kids are freaking creepy as hell. And like their minds are weird. But like I think it's very normal for a child to see something like that and be like, huh, that's different from anything I know about. So I think that's normal. I'm gonna go. We need to do a creepy kids episode or flavor because I have a lot to say on creepy kids.
Oh, yeah. I think we do have creepy kids on the docket somewhere. I can't remember where it is. But God, okay.
Oh yeah, we do. I think I put it there.
That was horrifying.
Yeah. I was fine when I was typing all of this out, but then when I started reading it back to myself, I was like, oh, that's kind of a lot.
That is kind of a lot. She shouldn't have tried so hard, to be honest. She was such a pick-me torturer.
Yeah, she was just really, really extra with the virgin blood. Okay. Anyway, what really happened? Like, we've talked about this kind of throughout this discussion, but everything that we have talked about, that's the story that people know of her. That's what people knew up until the 1990s. What happened in the 1990s? Great question. So before then, Slovakia was under dictatorship until the fall of the USSR, which happened in 1989. And it wasn't until after that fall that historians were able to legally access records and documents that would tell this whole story, because Hungary had everything kind of on lockdown and no one could get any answers to anything that they had heard. So a linguist named Tony Thorne, he was from King's College in London. Yeah.
Tony Thorne.
Are we fangirling? I was trying to keep it cool, but I was unfamiliar with him. Yeah, I was unfamiliar with him, but I looked into him. I don't have anything about him in this episode, sorry. But I was like, oh, it sounds like someone that Gina would be into. Do you want to give our listeners a background on Tony Thorne, or no? You're literally
I don't know
blushing.
Anything.
Oh my God.
No, I don't know anything about Tony Thorne, but I'm picturing like a kind of an Indiana Jones type researcher.
I thought you were like, oh my God, I love Tony Thorne.
Oh no, I just like his name, and I think it would be really, because imagine being the researcher who gets to see those, like, that's incredible. And the fact that they picked a guy with a last name Thorne, like, there should be a book about him. He should have his own movie. I
don't know if he was picked. He was like, hey, I'm curious about this. I suspect that this is not right. I want to like look into this. He poured over hundreds and hundreds of pages written in like ancient Hungarian and translated it all to 1990s British English. I was like, because that's really it. He's a linguist from England. So I was like, wow, that's Gina vibes right there. 100%.
Yeah. I just Googled him.
God, do you have a crush on Tony Thorne?
I think I do, yeah. All right, I'm going to open his Wikipedia page and I'm going to read it later when I'm alone.
Okay. I mean, you can read it while I'm talking too. I will not be offended.
I want to hear the story.
So he got the ball rolling on kind of setting the record straight / getting people to question like what actually happened. Because even if you think of the logistics, like we're talking of a span of only a couple of years here, populations were not what they are now back then. So 600 people missing and murdered is a lot. So like, that's just one of many reasons that he was kind of like, okay, what actually happened? So again, he read through all of the records that existed on this case, and he determined that based on everything he read, it was very clear that she was not subject to a fair trial for two main reasons. This is another part I'm going to be laughing because I'm like, yeah, no shit, this happened. Like, what did we expect about a trial against a woman in 1600-ish? Besides the servants, every single person who testified were either members of his family or like close family friends who, I think they were all, if not all, mostly men, and B, every single one of them would be in power if she had not inherited his role. Every single one of them, yes. So like, okay, red flag.
Jesus, that's awful.
Reason number 2, it was not a fair trial. The servants that Count Thurzo called to interrogation, every single one of them was tortured throughout their entire interrogation. They were tortured to like give answers.
And we know how that goes.
And it was like in the records, like the things that were being done to them. I didn't get any like details on that, but it was like he wasn't guessing. Like there was documented activity. Yeah.
Dude, these poor servants.
I know. Yeah, I know. Back to Tony Thorne. Oh, you're going to love this. He had an interview with Vice. And in this interview, he said, quote, I have read her, being Elizabeth, obviously. I've read her letters, and she was a very intelligent woman who often bullied men who tried to threaten her. There were plenty of people with reasons to frame her. It's very possible that she was tough, also possible that she was cruel, but also she was essentially innocent.
Damn. Okay.
So that's interesting to me.
So even if she did do it, completely unfair trial process, no hard evidence, at least
that's what he
evidence
was saying.
That's lasted through the centuries. Mm-hmm. God damn.
Well, and he was saying, basically, I'll try to find the interview and maybe we can link it, but otherwise just Google it, like Tony Thorne Vice interview. You can find it very easily. But basically what he was saying was that, like even if she did do it, like this trial was fucked. But also based on the reasons it was not a fair trial, and all these people who were framing her and had it out for her and didn't like her, they, again, we mentioned at the beginning, they're a cruel family, you know? So he's not saying that, like, she wasn't mean or people didn't like her or whatever. He's saying that despite all that, this is, like, there is a measurable part of this that's not true. Basically, we don't know exactly which parts. We will never know because this was several centuries ago, but we can use our adult brains and surmise that there's something sketch about this story.
Wow. I have thought, since I watched that documentary with my sister when I was a kid, I have always thought this chick was guilty. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
everyone did. Yeah, everyone did.
Wow.
And people still do, because this is not, you know, that, I mean, the story has been told for centuries, and it was only 30 years ago that one guy uncovered clues that maybe it's not true, possibly.
Wow.
So, like,
High fives for Tony Thorne.
Tony
Love you
Thorne,
to death.
Gina's
Can't wait to date you someday.
bestie.
I shouldn't say that. I have a partner that I love so much.
Just kidding, Tom. Okay. So, at this point, everyone's sitting there like, hey, Kathryn, you've been talking for a long time about a serial killer, but you're supposed to be talking about vampires. Great. That's a great point. What does this have to do with vampirism? Basically, at its core, the idea of what a vampire is and the vampire lore that we know now hasn't always been what vampire lore is. The legends behind it and, like, how it got started, it's changed significantly over the millennia, right? So Dracula strongly influenced why are you smiling?
Because I'm going to talk about this in my episode too. And
I know. I'm trying to think of a smooth way to give that teaser, so thank you. Yes. So I'm not going to go in depth because teaser, spoiler, tune in next week to hear all about the beginnings of vampire legends or whatever, lore, I don't know. But basically, Dracula strongly influenced the way we understand vampires now. You know, think like Interview with Vampire, Buffy, kind of like 90s vampire, I think, is that, like, vibe. Basically, at its beginning, vampire lore was very concentrated around this region and around this time. So the time that this is all happening with Elizabeth, vampire lore didn't really exist. It wasn't until a few years later. And so after that, people kind of retrospectively said, wait a minute, didn't that chick drain these people's blood and then bathe in it? Now that we know about vampires, what the hell was that? Maybe she was a vampire. So again, it wasn't until after she died, or at least long after this happened, that people started wondering if maybe that was one of the reasons this could have happened to her. Maybe she was possessed by a demon and it was a vampire demon, or like whatever. That's when the stories kind of started. At its beginning, what her story originally was, it was essentially a cautionary tale that people would tell their little girls about vanity. So she kind of became this, like, wicked witch creature that parents would say, you know, oh, if you get too caught up in the way you look or get too caught up in, like, ungodly beauty, you might slowly devolve into an evil villain who drains people's blood and bathes in it. Basically,
that's such a scary story for a little kid.
Okay, but little kid stories before, like,
we can
the
do
early
a whole
2000s were brutal. Yes, we should also do one on fairy tales, because we should do a flavor of the month on fairy tales, because let's talk about that. Like, this fit right in with the stories that grown-ups would tell kids. Brutal. I mean, God, brutal. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that is what her story used to be. And then from there, so, like, that story turned into the vampire story. And then that became the story that was told up until, again, the last couple decades.
Okay.
Basically, her story would change to match whatever was happening in society. So from the beginning, people never really had the full story on her and never really had a full understanding of who or what she was, because people kind of just used her as a character to like explain things. She was a fable, essentially, and that fable would change as society changed. One of the reasons that she is so closely associated with vampirism specifically is a lot of people kind of speculated that she may have been one of the inspirations for Bram Stoker's Dracula. I don't know if I know I've mentioned Dracula a few times in this. They have a lot of similarities, the ties with Transylvania, just creepy castle vibes.
Aristocratic.
Aristocratic, yeah. Allegedly draining blood. But a lot of people dispute that. I think it's only a few historians that kind of speculate that. What is true is Vlad the Impaler, who is well known to be the inspiration for Dracula, he was a close ally to Stefan Bathory, Elizabeth's uncle.
Really?
Yes. So she was part of like the vampire friend group. Like they knew each other.
So, vampire besties.
Yeah. VBFF. So it's probably unlikely that she inspired Dracula, but what is true, and this is noted, is that she appears as a character in the sequel to Dracula, written by Bram Stoker's great-grandnephew, and it's called Dracula the Undead. So she is in that story, yeah. And then I think it was from there, like, that's kind of what put her into kind of, let's say she became an inspiration for a lot of things, starting with that. I think that may have been the first one where she was like given a place in a piece of art. After that, her story has inspired numerous works across many genres. There's films, operas, songs, bands. There is this was a tidbit that was told to me by my house member. There is a Swedish black metal band called Bathory.
Of course Phil knows
surprise, that. Surprise. If you know, you know. I'm sorry, first wave black metal.
Gotta get it right.
You can probably hear me through the door, so I felt his vibes correcting me. But that band was inspired by a song by the band named Venom, and the song is called The Blood Countess. So her reach, and actually this part, I wasn't going to mention this, but whatever. I don't remember his name, so sorry, but one of the guys from Bathory went on to become a music video director, and then he eventually started doing feature-length films, and he directed Taylor Swift's concert video. So this woman's reach is wide, whether you know it or not. Like, that's what I'm getting at.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that's kind of the point that I want to make. Like, she has touched many stories. Her story has influenced many, many things across, many genres and, again, like pieces of art. But the most interesting thing to me is that even though her reach is wide, it's not deep, because there are so many gaps in her story that people just simply don't know what the whole truth is. So there's too much space to fill in. There are too many gaps, and people have taken tons of liberty, myself included, in this podcast episode. They've taken tons of liberty to kind of fill in pieces and kind of create this character that matches the point that you're trying to make. Like, here I am. Who the hell am I? This is episode 1, and I'm sitting here like, she was innocent. Everything's fine. It didn't happen. Like, I don't know that, but there's just no proof you can't prove me wrong,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the story. Nothing's real. We can't prove shit. And that's
nothing matters.
Bathory. Yeah, nothing matters. Everyone's gonna die.
Wow.
Hopefully not by your blood getting drained. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's super interesting. I felt very uncomfortable putting this story together because of that, because there are so many. I was not expecting this to go in the direction it went. I thought I was talking about a vampire who killed tons of people, but there's a lot more to it than that. And she's one that we could make an entire other episode, same length, and it could be about I could mention so many things I've not even mentioned here. Like, there are just so many things about her worth talking about. So this is a very small snippet.
That's insane that that's a small snippet, because I feel like I just ran an emotional marathon.
Like, I was about to say I could have gone so much deeper, but I couldn't. I could go, like, wider, though. I could go further, but, like, I couldn't. I mean, unless I, too, poured over the Hungarian legal documents, which I'm sorry, Tony, I'm not going to do that.
We'll leave that to Mr. Thorne. Yes. My good friend, Mr.
Master Thorne.
No, that's, wow. And I know that there's a lot of conversation in Vampire Lit. I don't know that there's a lot of conversation. I took one class on vampires in literature in college, and I'm not an expert.
There probably is. There's probably lots of conversations.
I remember specifically, like, in the context of Dracula, because so many of the vampires in books and works of art that we studied were men, obviously. And so many of the conversations we had were around how the act of drinking blood as a vampire is an inherently sexual act because it's penetrative. Mm-hmm. And so in, like, Dracula, for example, I was listening to I can't remember the name of the podcast, or I would shout them out, but I was listening to an episode about Dracula recently, and they were talking about how the word lips is mentioned like 12 times over the course of the book. Mm-hmm. And and I don't know if it was actually 12 times, but just the sexual undertones of it.
Speaking of sexual undertones, I'm going to start another rumor. I had this in my notes, but I stopped because I was like, okay, you've talked enough. But I do want to share this other conspiracy that I want to theorize right now. What if she was not torturing these women so much as having loving, consensual affairs? And when this Count Thurzo guy walked in on her, it was so scandalous, A, to be having an affair, but also B, having an affair, like, as a woman with a woman. What if either he was like, oh my God, you're evil, or what if the woman was like, oh no, I don't want to get in trouble with this. She's torturing me. I am a victim. I'm a virgin. She was trying to steal my blood.
Wow, I'd be so pissed if my lover did that to me.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, so
like
tell
that
your
rumor.
friends.
That's a good rumor.
Yeah, tell your friends. It was just nothing but good old consensual fun between two ladies of society.
A good old romp in the sack.
If there's one thing I've learned about every movie I've ever seen that takes place in this time period, it's that people were horny as hell, right? So, like,
there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. Except torture and kill people, I guess. But I think that it's the other one.
I think so, too.
So let's start that rumor as well. So we have Baby and
lesbian lover. I like that take on this much more than the cold hard facts. That makes me feel a little bit better. I might have to change my answer to you know that icebreaker that's always like, if you could invite 3 people to dinner. I kind of want to
invite... Who are yours? Do you have an answer for that?
So my number one is always Robin Williams. 100% always Robin Williams.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because he's fantastic. Yeah. And then the other 2 depend on my mood and who I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. But in the context of this conversation, I would invite Bathory. Yeah. I want to know what the story was.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a good point, because then you could get, maybe you still wouldn't get the real story, but you would get her side of the story.
And if she starts, taking stinging nettles out of her purse and wrapping them into a switch, I'll just give you a call. You hop on the next plane, you come over here, and then we'll put her on a fair trial. I don't know why you need to be here to do that, but...
I do. I just do.
Okay, yeah, that's my list. It would be Robin Williams, Elizabeth Báthory, and you. That's my 3 dinner guests.
Okay. Dude, I'm no fun. Mine would be you, Phil, and Tom.
For context, Tom is my partner, and Phil is Catherine's partner.
Phil's I called him my housemate earlier because I got scared. That. I was trying to think of something funny to call him, and that is like the least funny thing you could call someone. So sorry for the confusion.
I know you were you were telling me that wonderful story, so I don't know how much of your ice cream you got to eat, but how was it?
So it was good. I don't know how to rate things fairly because I'm always way too nice when I rate anything. Okay, what's our scale? What are we rating it on?
So scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is, like really shitty ice cream that's super grainy and like it has chunks of ice in it and horrible.
Yep.
And then 10 is like, I don't know, what's our 10? Like a gelato.
Just the best thing you've ever
Just the best,
tasted
silkiest.
ever in your life.
Like if Tony Thorne made you an ice cream, that's what 10 is.
Okay. Damn. Okay, so it was not a 10. Nothing could come close. I would say I'm going to give it like a 7 because the ice cream itself was not great, but the experience was top notch. Yeah. How was yours?
Well, and that
you don't have to include the experience in yours. I'm just too nice when I rate things. All of mine are going to be 7.
I feel like the ice cream for me was like a 4. It was not a great ice cream. It was like, I think I said at the start, it's like what someone who hasn't had strawberry ice cream in a while, if they had to build it or make it. I don't think you build ice cream, but
build it.
If you like, because you know how Sunny D tastes like someone imagines orange juice, but they've never had it before.
I love Sunny D.
Me too, but that shit's not orange
but
juice.
Yes, but yes,
this was like the ice cream version of that. The experience, though, 10 out of 10. Loved it. That was a great way to kick things off.
Yeah. Now that honestly, I will say, now that you framed your rating the way you did, I still want to say 7 for mine because I haven't had strawberry ice cream in a very long time. And it was like nostalgic because that was my favorite when I was little. So it was like, I kind of like had a little, oh, wow.
All right. Cool. Well, should we wrap it up?
This has gone on way longer than when I practiced it, all 25 minutes of it. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for listening.
And
everything just fell out of my head. Don't forget to follow us on, what do we got? Yes. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We have a TikTok?
We technically have TikTok.
We do technically have a TikTok.
We do have TikTok. Yep. We have, I think, 4 followers on there.
Yeah. And we're in the process of setting up a YouTube channel as well, where you can see our faces alongside hearing our voices if you want.
We'll have links for everything because we are aware of how common the phrase of the name of our podcast is.
Yes.
So we'll give you links so you don't have to search it.
So check out the show notes. And until next time, little spoons, keep it cool.
Keep it creepy.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace out.